The Gorn send their eggs to soften a planet for conquering. The USS Star Diver was stationed in the Shan-Dai system, and Nurse Chapel is hitching a ride with the USS Cayuga. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Cayuga.
Oh, it's like the old school car horns, right? Cayuga. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 10, Hegemony, written by the Henry Alonzo Myers and directed by superstar Maya Vervillo. This entire season of reviews is brought to you by Anna Post, our good friend. Thank you so much, Anna. Great seeing you at STLV, and congratulations on the new cadet. What's up, Cirroc frickin' Lofton? How are you?
I'm great. And the cadet is Sayla. I think that's her name. Isayla. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was very good to see everybody this last weekend. I'm doing great.
Doing great. Yeah. Still wiping the cobwebs from my brain right now and flushing all the smoke and toxins from Las Vegas out. But man, coming back into Star Trek Strange New Worlds, this is the final episode of season 2. By the way, everybody, we have director, supervising director, producing director, Chris Fisher. He's also executive producer of Strange New Worlds. He will be joining us a little later. Executive producer and producing director Chris Fisher a little later, so stick around for that. Cirroc, what do you think of this episode?
Well, another entertaining episode. This show does a good job of like bouncing around sometimes to play around in the world of fantasy and cover other side stories that they want to do. And then they come right back to kind of the overall arcing message of what this season's about and what we've seen even since the first season, which is this ever-present kind of Gorn threat that has been dabbled with. And it's something that has been teased, and my appetite has been built up for this kind of a moment. So I was excited that we were getting into some of that storyline now. And that's why I really kind of was open and receptive to watching this episode. Like, oh, okay, this is about to be good. So I was excited about the beginning of starting to tell this Gorn story even more.
Mm-hmm. And we finally got to see an adult Gorn, which was pretty awesome. I just realized what the biggest thing for me was, and everybody at home, should be unsaid that there are spoilers ahead, so be very careful. But oh my goodness, I was not prepared for how excited I would be to see Scotty. Montgomery Scott, Lieutenant Junior grade. And when they first started talking to this dude, I started typing British accent, and I was like, actually Scottish accent. And then right when I typed that, I was like, wait a second, is that fucking Scotty? And then a few seconds later, he said his name was Scotty. And I just thought that accent and that voice and that fellow was just so charming. I didn't realize how happy it would make me to see a Montgomery Scott. I don't know why. Kirk, fine. Uhura, Spock, great. Maybe it's because we kind of expect it. I don't know. But I was instantly in love and in fascination with the possibility of having Scotty on the show, and now being hopefully part of the engineering team under Pelia. And eventually we know where that's going to lead. We know at some point in the next 1 to 6 years or whatever, he's going to take over as chief engineer.
Yeah. And I thought the actor did a great job of, trying to capture some of those nuances, but also have his own flair to his personality. Not easy to do. But there were even moments when I saw him walking down the hallway, and I felt like that was the Scotty walk. So I almost thought like he might have practiced even just kind of emulating the walk. Um, so I thought this actor did a great job at the Scotty role.
Yeah,
Of course, we're gonna see a lot more of that too going forward. But
hopefully, I mean,
I think so. I mean,
we're assuming, and it would be amazing, right? I mean, I hope so.
there was a moment where Kirk's brother kind of looked at him when he was first coming on the ship, and it was kind of like, oh, the moment of first meeting each other. I always look at those kinds of moments like, oh, that's the first time they meet each other, right? It's the first time Scotty meets Kirk's brother Sam, right? And there was that exchange of look, and I said, wow, that's the first time. So yeah, there's all these moments that this show is giving us. Plus, they gave us a little bit. They gave us more Pike in this episode. I feel like sometimes Pike may take the back seat in certain episodes, and just have smaller like cameos.
Mm-hmm.
The last one was that musical, and he had his short scene with his
Thank
girl.
God he wasn't the lead in the musical, because I'm not sure he could carry a musical. Celia could. Ethan Peck did great.
Yes,
Jess Bush, great. I don't think Pike
Christina Chong did as well.
Right.
Also did. Yeah.
Forgive me, I don't think Mbenga could carry a musical either. But
I don't think he wants to.
I know he definitely doesn't.
But they gave us more Pike in this episode, right? They gave us a lot more Pike. We got to see him really lead the team, lead the away team, kind of have a lot more to do. I'm always happy to see more of the captain kind of getting his hands dirty in episodes. So that was one thing that I enjoyed. And then, there were moments just throughout this episode. I really liked Ortegas, for example. I thought Ortegas had moments in which her character really shined, that whole backseat driver, like, are you going to be a backseat driver, sir? I love that line, love the delivery. The confidence that Ortegas has is excellent. And once again, the fear of the overall arching fear that was looming with the Gorn was also another piece of tension that I felt added to the whole, climax.
I loved it. I love the tone of this episode.
Yeah.
I will say, in that scene with the backseat driver, there was a line, not to be too harsh, there was a line that I thought was unnecessary. And that was when Pike says something to the effect of, piloting is in your blood. Piloting must be, you were born for this, Erica. And I don't know. I just kind of thought, like, we see it. You don't, it's kind of like, it kind of harkens back to episodes that are like, well, he's the smartest guy in the fleet. It's like, you don't need to tell us that. Show us, we can see it. And so I felt like this was one of those lines where we didn't need it. Like, we can see she's born for this. Pike has already shown, Anson Mount has already shown that he can say that without even a word, just with a look. He's shown beyond a shadow of a doubt. He and Celia, I think, are the masters at nonverbal communication. He can just look at her and we can read it. That he, so I didn't think that line was necessary, but I thought it was cool when and
let me just double down with what you're saying. It did stand out to me as an awkward note, and almost like something that Pike wouldn't say. Like, well, Pike wouldn't say it like that, and it did strike a note in my receptor somewhere where it felt awkward. Maybe it could have even been delivered in a different way, perhaps more of like,
I thought the same.
I guess you were born for this, like
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Like that. Yeah.
To where it's not just giving out a compliment. It's like he's convincing himself but anyway, that's right. a minor critique. There was cool when he mentioned how he's going to contact Michael Burnham about their candies that they're going to be making, the Mike and Pikes. But anyway, that was, I don't know if you saw that.
I missed the Burnham reference.
It was a quick
Yeah, I missed that. I missed that.
Mike and Bikes. They're really good.
But there was a Burnham reference, though. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Because
I
I
don't
missed
think
it.
so.
Okay. Okay.
There was one thing actually, and I'd love some help from the audience right now if you don't know Cirroc. I thought there was a non-appearance mention for Dr. Corby, the person that Christine Chapel is going to go see. But then, this was at the end of the episode. I was like, oh, there was a non-appearance mention for Dr. Corby. I put that in my notes, but I was like, wait, was Dr. Corby actually mentioned by name, or was it just in the previously on Strange New Worlds? Or did they just mention, that she's going to, that research center or something? So I don't know. Did we actually hear Dr. Corby's name mentioned? Not a huge question, but everybody in the live chat, if you know for sure, let us know. Do you remember, did they?
I do not remember, but what you mentioned actually brought up another thing that I wanted to comment on, which was the previously on Strange New Worlds
by La'an
clips. Right. Well, the clips that come just before the episode starts, the ones that kind of refresh our memories about what happened and how they kind of set the stage leading into this episode. And they pick very specific clips that they want us to see based on, okay, this is the furtherance of the Spock and Chapel love story. So we're going to cover that. So we're going to show you a clip of them together.
Exactly.
And so they pick specific clips, and it doesn't look like they pick clips from the last episode, because I thought they were going to show some musical stuff from this episode, right? But they didn't. They pick other clips, and that was another thing that I kind of had notes about, was how they are strategic about picking those previously on Strange New Worlds clips, because I remember seeing Hemmer, for example, in the opener. It was a quick flash, but Hemmer was there, and I was thinking to myself, is that a non-appearance, for Hemmer, or and I also wondered, does he get some kind of
residual or
some
something?
kind of residual income for having that clip played? Because he's been in several clips now.
Yeah.
Even when he wasn't in the episode. But he's been in several of these clips, and I always wonder, is there any kind of compensation for revisiting those clips in another episode? Because Hemmer might be leading the way in appearance, non-appearance mentions.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like maybe they should get some kind of kickback for that, because it is part of the episode. When somebody plays an episode, that is played. That's part of it. It's not like a separate video to catch you up. So it sounds like yes, because that is something that was created for this week alone. This is part of this episode. So it's not its own separate entity. It was edited and created specifically for this. Just like if they played the clip in the middle of the episode, just like if Celia is going, oh, I remember Hemmer, and she's looking at her thing and it shows a video of him doing something, even if it's something from season 1, he's got to get a kickback for that, because he's part of that episode. So yeah, I think that's a good point. I think they probably do.
Yeah, it's no different than when you have a holograph image of Denise Crosby in some other future episode. That's her appearing in there. So I'm sure there's some kind of I also wanted to mention something that you've pointed out many times when we review Star Trek episodes, and it kind of brought back memories for me. You always talk about the towns that they visit, the colonies, when they go to these towns, and everybody's playing around the fountain.
Yeah,
right.
They do. They do. There's always somebody playing hacky. Kids playing hacky sack in the corner, or soccer. There's somebody carrying a basket of fruit. There's somebody welcoming them.
Right. And so I thought it was good that we didn't get that in this episode. They did show the old town. They showed life going on in that town, but they didn't show it in the same way that they've shown it in the past, where everybody's gathered around to go marvel at the new guests who are visiting us. And I thought that was good. It's a change.
It's probably a reflection of budget, I would say, at this point. I mean, now we're doing 10 episodes instead of 26. So back in the day, everything just had to be shot, inside a studio. They only had 1 week to shoot it instead of 2 weeks. They had less of a budget. Whereas now, and obviously, the writing, the production, everything is a little bit more sophisticated. The audience is more sophisticated. We're all watching this stuff. So maybe that's the death of our beloved town square sets. maybe we're never going to see, but I hope that one of these shows brings that back. You know what Strange New Worlds should do for season 3? Because you know how they're always doing like different genres, for every episode. Mm-hmm. One of those genres should be 90s Trek. So there'll be like an alien of the week. They go down to visit a planet in a little square, like obviously an indoor set, with a fake tree. And they all look the same. Maybe they have like one little forehead prosthetic dangling, and they're all wearing like similar outfits that are like orange and red, with little brown sleeves.
No. Don't remake Code of Honor. We've had enough of that kind of stuff.
I'm thinking more like, I don't know.
What it was, one of those episodes, I forgot the name. Sanctuary.
Yeah, anything.
I forgot the name of it.
I think that'd be great. A 90s Trek episode. Season 3, episode 5 of Strange New Worlds, when we all need like a little break from the action, just want to hang out, watch some old 90s Trek.
If they bring that back, it would best fit in Lower Decks.
Yeah.
You know how Lower Decks did the whole recruitment thing with Starfleet recruitment at the fair?
They'd knock it out of the park.
Yeah, they could easily slide that one in. But yeah, no, back to this show, there were some moments that I really liked. I like the Spock and Una kind of connection where Una was reaching out to Spock, kind of, seeing that he had this feeling for Chapel, and that he was going through this, processing this and how he was trying to deal with it. I thought the close-ups on him were really good. I just made a note, like Maya, the director, really took the time to make sure that the background behind Spock in that close-up was like, headshot material, with the way it was blurred in the background and the way the lighting was. I thought it was like top quality as far as the framing of that shot and the backlighting behind it. So, just little details. Also, the vests and the away suits that they used when they went to the planet. I let the gold kind of shielded vest that Pike had. Yeah, I thought that was another highlight to the wardrobe that we've seen so far on this show, and how detailed it looks. We've talked with Bernadette Croft about the amount of work that goes into it. So I just thought those outfits were great. Really loved the space flight suits that Spock was in.
Yeah.
And the one eventually that Chapel got into, those were also kind of really cool. So there were moments in this episode, it was kind of almost like a motion picture in some ways, the way some of the visual effects were filmed. The whole crashing of the saucer, even the first appearance of the Gorn ship when they're on the planet, that kind of made me feel like, oh damn, this thing is huge. And
yeah, that was crazy. It did feel like one of those sci-fi movies where the aliens are flying in, and it also had a little bit of like the zombie movies feel, where they're inside of a bank or a diner, and they're like looking through the boarded up windows and stuff like that. There was some great shots when they're looking through the boarded. I think La'an was specifically looking through a boarded up window, and I thought that they set that shot up perfectly, so there was the space for her to sit.
Yes.
I did want to point out very quickly, when I mentioned Celia with the nonverbal communication, we usually comment on her good side-eye glances and reactions. But in this specific episode, what she did, where I was like, that's really good. There was like a slow motion. There was like sparks. There's always sparks going on in starships and in Star Trek, but there was a spark or explosion, and she did like a slow motion, like swing back thing. And it was really in slow motion. You can really catch if somebody's not selling it right. You know what I mean? When it's moving quickly, it's a blur, but it was in slow motion. She did a thing like that, and her face really reacted well, and then she came right back to it. And I watched it a couple times because I was really impressed by that. I don't know how many takes it took, but I know that's something to where if it wasn't perfect and amazing, it would really show up in slow motion. And so kudos to her for that, I would say. but just overall, the tone of this episode felt very like, aliens attack or zombie style. They even mentioned a zombie trick or
zombie
something.
movies. Yeah, it's a zombie movie trick is what the line was. Yeah, there was. I felt well when the whole sky was blocked out by the Gorn ship. That gave me like War of the Worlds type of feel to it, right? Like the invasion of the space invaders type stuff. So that was the first kind of vibe I got. Then I did get the movie Aliens with Sigourney Weaver kind of vibe. When those
one
things
of the
around.
best movies in the history of film, in my opinion. I feel like top 10 best movies of all time. The second movie, Aliens, with Sigourney Weaver and Newt just mowing down all these aliens. I felt that too. I definitely got that.
Yeah. I got Aliens vibe. There was also that zombie vibe, like like when they hit it out in the barbershop. There was some of that going on. I even got like Jurassic Park vibes. When those, because the Gorn could be looking similar to like a dinosaur, I would say, right?
Totally.
So I got some of that. And so there were just so many moments that I really enjoyed that the director took us through when kind of painting the picture for this episode. For example, when Nurse Chapel wakes up in the debris and finds out, she's got to get the hell out of there. The shot of her looking out of the window and seeing the Enterprise, right?
That was fantastic.
That was just like, I was like, oh, that's good storytelling right there. That's good storytelling. And I felt the emotion of like, my salvation is just that close away. I can see it right there. Like that's, if I can only get, and she does the flashlight thing in the window. I just like that particular part of it. I thought was extremely emotional. And then, Spock jumping over to get towards her, but not really knowing that she's there. It was it's a beautiful love story. And, they were able to tell that love story while telling these other stories as well. Cause it was a love story. This episode is a love story, both of Pike and his love interest. It's about Spock and Chapel, right? At least in this situation, those were the main love stories that were covered.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I too thought that was one of the best moments when Chapel sees the Enterprise, because they delivered it well. It was a beautifully written scene. Shout out to Henry Alonso Myers for that, and beautifully executed by the director and by Jess Bush as well, because she's looking around. She's got kind of the panic, the wooziness in her eyes. We're with her. We understand what's going on, and we're like, oh my God, what's the situation? And she stops, and you could tell there's that shock in her eyes, and we're thinking, what is she seeing? Pans over, shows a little window with frost around it, and off in the distance you see that little stinking ship that we know and love. And I'm like, that was perfect. Can't beat that. That's an A+, I think.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Now also the other thing was another little quick nonverbal communication. There's a lot of great stuff there. When Pelia meets Scotty, and she goes, oh, one of my best students. Yeah. And this is one of those moments where just a look tells us all we need to know. Scotty makes a face. She says, oh, he was one of my best students. And he makes a face, which we recognize as, what? No, I wasn't. Like he looked at it like, what the, and so that tells us, see, she just says that about everybody. She said it about Una. That's already set it up. So we know she just says that about everybody. So when she said that and he looked like, what are you talking about? No, I wasn't one of your best students, So that was just a great reaction there, perfectly delivered. Just wanted to point that out as well.
Yeah, and I liked also when she said to Una, you could have gotten an A+ if you said that. It was just those little digs I thought were great, great delivery wise. Another thing they're doing great on this episode, which I enjoyed, is leaving me with a cliffhanger for the upcoming next season, right? So they accomplish both finishing this story and beginning a new story at the same time, and leaving me kind of wanting more at the edge of my seat, wanting to see this stuff play out. Right, Pike's girl's infected with this Gorn disease or whatever it is. We saw the advancing of the Gorn ship. I think Mbenga and a few other crew members have been beamed up aboard the Gorn, if I'm not mistaken, mm-hmm. right? So the crew is missing some of their key people, if I'm not mistaken.
You're probably right. I was trying to figure out who went with them, but yeah, that would make sense because we only saw the others come up. That's true. Spock and Chapel and them.
Right. So we have the crew is split up. We have the Gorn is attacking. The amount of climax in this was amazing. Love the Spock flying across, with that little bat with the thing attached to his ankle as he's jetpacking across from one ship to the other. That was really cool. And him also flying by the window while Chapel is looking out of the window as she's slapping, trying to get his attention. I thought that was another kind of moment where it felt real to me, like that would be somebody's reaction in those situations.
So would that mean that of the crew that we know that were left on the planet that are theoretically beamed up by the Gorn, would that be Ortegas, La'an, Mbenga, and Sam Kirk? Because Pike, Battelle, and Scotty beamed back onto the ship. So that would leave those four, which is a great 4-person crew for that storyline at the beginning of season 3, right? Ortegas, La'an, Mbenga, and Sam Kirk. That's enough for a full story of their own. I think full so. B-plot, yeah.
I think that's what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't see them come back, and that was the whole thing that Pike was saying, like, beam them back, and Spock's like, well, they're gone, they're already been beamed.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it includes our crew members as well.
Yep, you are right. I think you are correct there. Let us know in the live chat or in the comments below, everybody, if that is correct. Those 4 plus whoever else was on the planet that we didn't meet, but those are the ones that we do know of that theoretically are captured by the Gorn. Yes. And I love the Gorn, by the way. I think they're doing a great job fleshing out that, new alien villain that not terribly new, but that has not been explored. We've explored the Borg to death and the Klingons, the Romulans and the Vulcans and the Cardassians and all that. So it's great that this series is exploring a race that has not been explored a ton. It was just, I think, 1 episode in the original series and 1 or 2 episodes in Enterprise. So that's great because those are all earlier shows. But hey, we got to hop on a break here, everybody. We've got a special treat for you. As mentioned, executive producer and producing director Chris Fisher will be joining us right now on the other side of this break to, wrap up this season 2 and to give us all the spoilers of season 3. Probably not. But that'll be really cool to see him. So everybody stick around. We will be right back on the 7th Rule. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
We've got our very special guest joining us today. It is producer-director Chris Fisher. Hello, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Very quickly, everybody at home is banging on the door. They said, you better not skip the trivioids of the week. So here they come, fast and furious. The USS Cayuga is just outside Federation space in orbit of the colony planet Parnassus Beta. Cirroc was making a joke about that off air, which I won't repeat. Nurse Chapel is hitching a ride with the USS Cayuga. Sometimes a monster is just a monster. Sam Kirk invites himself into a meeting. An away mission uses an old zombie movie trick. La'an has a brother named Manu, I think. The Gorn send their eggs to soften a planet for conquering. The Enterprise away mission meets Lieutenant Junior Grade Montgomery Scott. Scotty was from the Star Diver, the solar research vessel. And lastly, the Star Diver was stationed in the Shan Dai system. All right. So, Chris, this has been an incredible season and everybody's losing their mind over it. Can you tell us, you had access to all of the scripts of season 2 before shooting, is that correct?
No, the way we work, at least so far. Again, we're still perfecting our workflow. But the way we work is we usually start the season with anywhere between 3 to 4 scripts that are completed, ready to go. And then we will have outlines and at least sort of a paragraph for the final episodes. But we do have a full season arc, a kind of concept document. So I guess what you're probably asking is, we do know where the season is going before we start. We everyone on the production side, which is sort of my purview, is we have the full season arc ahead of us. And we're able to sort of drop our pins and foreshadows and Easter eggs along the way to kind of build up to that episode 10 when we're thinking about episode 1.
Chris, I wanted to first congratulate you on this second season. It's been remarkable. I've enjoyed every moment of it, and you gave us a real climactic finale for this and left us kind of on the hook for the next season, because we can't wait to find out what's going to happen to close out these stories. But my question is really about some of the decisions that you made, particularly going into this finale. The Gorn that we saw, the adult Gorn, because the Gorn has been the big thing of this show. It's the main kind of villain of Strange New Worlds that we've seen recur now for these 2 seasons. And my question is about the adult Gorn scene. The decision, was that a computer generated Gorn, or was that an actual person dressed up in costume? Because I couldn't really tell.
It was a combination. So our Gorn, as everyone knows, our Gorn started off as a baby. We had the baby Gorn season 1, and then we had sort of a toddler Gorn that you saw, sort of a little more grown up version. And then this episode is obviously we reveal our full adult Gorn. The creature design started with Legacy Effects, and they're a creature company based here in Los Angeles. And they're run by a guy named Alan, who is, truly a genius. The Baby Yoda, amongst many other things, is
oh wow,
one of his creations. So that they're really the best in the business. So they designed, they created, they concepted the Gorn. Of course, Akiva and Henry, our showrunners, were fully involved in the whole process. But like everything on Star Trek, it's really a team effort. So once we had it's sort of an actor would get into this prosthetic body that was actually built, and the mouth was animatronics. So all that was acted out on stage, and it was shot practically. But then our amazing VFX team came in and enhanced it, and made the tail whip, made the head swing faster, added blood, drool. But what we did, and we had an incredible director, Maya Favillo, directing this episode, who has been in the Star Trek family for a long time. And she and I go way back. We've been working together for almost 15 years. She wanted to shoot everything herself, shoot everything practically. So as much as possible, even eyes and blinks and stuff like that, we did shoot a practical version of. But for the most part, that stuff was enhanced by VFX. So it's really a team effort. And again, it was done super old school. And then all the most up-to-date CGI and VFX were used on top of that.
And it looked great. That's why I couldn't tell
yeah.
it was a combination. And so my eyes were trying to find things that I normally look for, and it was so accurate and believable. I couldn't tell which way it was. I'm glad for that background. Sorry,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Ryan, what were you saying?
it was super challenging. So we had to dismantle our entire bridge set to create
Oh,
that version
Wow.
of the broken in half bridge. And we had, the not only the Gorn actor in the Gorn suit, but we had him on wires, and he was, all our actors were on wires. So I mean, it was an incredibly complex setup. And as you know, coming after an incredibly complex musical episode. So it was really a huge testament to our crew, stunts, VFX, prosthetics. It was unbelievable that they pulled that stuff off.
Mhm.
So thanks for noticing it.
Yeah, I couldn't
yeah.
tell either.
Yeah.
I was watching, and like it felt so good that it felt like it had to be, VFX, because VFX can really get into certain kind of details. But then at the same time, the way it moved and the way it interacted with them, it had to be practical as well. So it obviously must have been some kind of combination. But yeah, it's not evident what's going on there because it's so beautifully done.
Well,
But
thanks. You cued into it right there. So the best creature design, the best creatures on film is always a combination of both.
Mhm.
So you're right. If you need something to interact, something to bounce off, you need to grab. So the claws, the fingertips, the hand on the face, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, you have to do that practically. But then when you want full head to toe shots and you want the creature to move at a speed at which is terrifying, the Gorn needs to be, by nature is a quicker, faster creature than human beings. So when you start going into the head to toe stuff, then the VFX really starts taking over, but they're always working with something practically. So it's really, I think maybe on some shows, you'll see practical effects and VFX sort of at odds. On our show, they're a team and they're working from the initial concept design, always planning on working together, working in harmony to make the creature come alive.
I can just hear the original series
Yeah.
fans right now saying, well, that one Gorn was not faster than anything I've ever seen in my life, but the Gorn have gotten a makeover, and it's definitely for the better, I think. And everybody at home might remember that Chris here directed the final episode of season 1, which got the Lappy Award for the best new Star Trek episode of all of 2022 out of 51 new Star Trek episodes. Huge congratulations there, as well as you directed the first episode of this season, just to give everybody a little bit of backstory there. And we're all hoping and expecting that you'll be back for season 3 as well. Do you, let me ask you this, if possible, is there now in hindsight, now that season 2 is behind you, is there an episode that you go in season 2 that you go, man, I would have really loved to direct that one. That one looks like a fun one.
I would say the finale. It's an honor to watch all of our directors work. One of the best parts about my job being a producing director is I get to not only hire the best directors in the world, but I get to watch them. I get to sit on set and watch Jonathan Frakes direct. I get to sit on set and watch Maya Vervila direct. So, but I'm a genre guy. I'm not a comedy guy necessarily or a musical guy. I'm a genre guy. That's all I've ever directed. I started in horror. And in my sense, the holy trinity for me is horror at the bottom, then fantasy, then science fiction is the very top of my pyramid. So for me to be involved in something as high concept as the Gorn, and it's because as challenging as that is as a director. And again, I learned so much from watching Maya. She really was a great teacher. So I would love to jump into something like that. I would love to get into serious sort of space opera sci-fi with creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was watching this episode, and the whole time I just kept saying, "Man, these Gorn are scary. The Gorn are scary." The way the fear in La'an's face every time they come up, you could just see the fear in people's eyes when they're brought up, and then when you see them in this episode, I had all kind of, we mentioned Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. I mentioned a little bit of Jurassic Park and how I felt watching the original Jurassic Park as a kid, the fear and tension. But I wanted to ask you about the zero gravity fight scenes and having this stuff, everybody on these pulleys. And I imagine it was done in front of this AR wall that you have, that you've used so much throughout the course of the show. I really enjoyed that. It looked very accurate to me. I felt the sense of weightlessness. I really enjoyed the love story between Chapel and Spock, and those moments together, even as they kind of jump out of the ship, as it's out of the saucer part, as it's crashing towards the planet's surface. And just walk me through some of the technical aspects of having to get all of that done, that weightlessness scene.
Yeah, so again, that was one of the things I was great to be a fly on the wall and really learn from Maya. The technical stuff was challenging, but I'll take a step back real quick, and I'll say the only thing that a director can really do wrong on our show is not focus on character. And it doesn't matter if you're doing a comedy episode or a thriller episode or a dramatic episode. It always has to be character based, and that's the one thing that Akiva and Henry really just their one rule is Fish, you and your directors can do anything you guys want, but this is a character driven show. So I'm glad you point out the relationship between Spock and Chapel, because in all this high concept action, it was always the most important thing was to get those close-ups and get those relationship and put you inside Spock and Chapel's point of view and feel what the sacrifice that they're willing to make for each other, because that's really why the scene works, and that's what Maya hit so perfectly. She was so pressured for time and so stressed with trying to get all these really very high-tech, very dangerous actually stunts completed with our actors. So actors were very often also in the wires because we had to see them doing it. But she never lost track of the story and the character moments, and that's really what made those sing. But the trick with the zero gravity, a lot of it we learned from our sister show Disco. Olatunde and his team of directors over there have done some great work. So some of the stuff we learned from them, I'd say bottom line, the trick is you shoot it slow motion, and then you can adjust the speed later on to kind of give it that floatiness. But it's also a very specific art for the stunt team. So Neil, our stunt coordinator, happens to be an expert in zero G, and it's not just normal wire work. It's a totally different art form. It's a totally different way of holding the body, suspending the body, and rigging. So the rigging has to be perfectly set for it. Otherwise, it just looks super, super fake. But we did all that whole fight, the whole final fight on the bridge with the Gorn was not done on our AR wall. So one of the limitations for the AR wall is that it has a ceiling. So it has a ceiling of LED panels. So it's not that rigging for zero G is impossible on the AR wall. It's very, very difficult though. So we made the decision to shoot that on a traditional set where we could use a grid system overhead to give us a little bit more safety and a little bit more practicality just for the stunt stuff. And we would use our VFX team to create the world outside of the destroyed bridge.
Wow. And just a seamless, the way it all flows together seamlessly is amazing. Also, just to highlight what you were just saying, Chris, about the capturing the emotion of the characters. We, in the previous segment of this review, talked about the shot that Maya lined up with Spock, having the conversation with Una, that it was on the bridge, but the backdrop behind him, the way the lights were, it really made him feel, it was like one of those headshot moments where I felt inside of his his head and his feelings, and that emotion that he has was really captured well in that close up. I thought Maya did a great job of framing the background of that close up and making him pop. And the other thing that I enjoyed in that zero gravity scene was the kind of cut to the ship out of the window as Chapel sees, like that's my
so good.
That's my hope right there. That's my chance. And the emotion of her feeling that connection, like, that's my way out. All of those things were captured very well by the director in these moments.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out here to Glenn Keenan, our DP. Glenn and Maya have a long relationship that predates, just like Maya and I have a relationship that predates Strange New Worlds. So do Glenn and Maya. They've been working together for at least 5 years. They've done some great disco episodes, so that they really speak the same language, and it's the almost kind of thing where she'll say, let's do this, and he'll finish the sentence for her. They're really on the same page visually. So that lighting you're talking about is coming from Glenn. Obviously it's the emotions coming from Maya, but they were just a fantastic team. And yeah, I mean, those looks from Chapel, I mean, Jess is just such a force in nature. I mean, all our actors are, but the tension and the conflict and the complexity between the relation between Spock and Jess, and even after what they've been through this season, to see them go and do that together, it was so beautiful. And they're the layers that they play with, not very much dialogue. It's just the emotion you feel is really tremendous.
Mm. We only have a few minutes left here, but Chris, I don't know how much pull you have with the writer's room, but we were talking about this in the previous segment. I would love to see in season 3, one of the themes that's being done. If we're pitching themes, and I'm sure we are not, if we are pitching themes,
we are not.
I submit a 90s Trek theme where they land on a planet and everybody looks the same, but with one little forehead prosthetic, and they're in like a little town square, and somebody comes and welcomes them, and they're all wearing matching clothes, and and then somebody's a kind of a mean person, and they solve the mystery.
No,
feel free to use that.
Yeah, feel free to not use it also. But no, Chris, I wanted to ask you, let me ask you about the idea of bringing Scotty in this last season. I mean, this last episode, the fans, I mean, Ryan was excited. He couldn't stop talking about,
I lost Scotty my gizzard about it.
Yeah. And just, how special that was. Also, the actor who played him really nailed some really small tendencies that I believe I saw. I thought that like his walk looked similar to me.
And very charming and lovable, I thought.
Yeah, and it's somebody that we all love and grew up with. And just a little bit about Scotty in this final episode.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, big picture, again, and only Akiva and Henry know the answer to this. But obviously, we know where this series ends. It ends with TOS, and so but it's so funny. Even though I know that, every time we introduce one of these legacy characters, I can't even speak. I'm so excited. It's just like, oh my God, Scotty's on set. And it happened with, obviously with Paul and James Kirk, and happened when I met Ethan and Spock and Jess, and Celia and Uhura. It's like, we know these characters are coming, and the audience knows, but it is so overwhelming to see it. And I've been, I think, one of the greatest gifts this show has given me as a lifelong Trekkie is to be on set for the first scene. Like I was, I got to direct Paul's first scene, but I was on set first scene with Ethan and with Celia, and it's just so I'd like to say it's like an out of body experience, and it wasn't just me. The whole cast is so freaked out by it too, and I remember reading some of the reviews of how how great it was that we underplayed Kirk and Spock shaking hands in was it 207? Yeah, 207 when James Kirk and Spock actually shake hands and Uhura's watching in the background. And you know, we all underplayed it, but if you were on set that day, we were all freaking out. Like, oh my God, this is the first time. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And just, go straight in these guys are so talented. But yeah, it was a long process. Akiva and Henry, do all the cast, handle exclusively all the casting for the recurring characters, and he's pretty much an unknown guy, and he had that je ne sais quoi, that's Scotty, it's one of those things, I think. He's doing his own thing, but he's got a unique flavor enough that it might not be the note that was played, but it's the theme that was played, and he's capturing that. And we loved him, and his crazy voice, which you can barely even understand, is just so perfect.
Yes.
And he was such a cool cat. I mean, I don't think he'd ever been to the North America before, and he's coming over and they jump into this thing, and it's I don't know, it's so fun. I really wish the fans and you guys could be there to behind the scenes, because we are freaking out more than anyone. But of course, when the camera rolls, he was just such a pro.
I was excited too. I was like, that's the first moment Sam Kirk met Scotty right there. Pause it.
Yeah, as a viewer, I had a similar feeling. It was almost like when people say, a car rushes by and they saw their life flash before their eyes. I kind of saw the entirety of Scotty flashing before my eyes as soon as I recognized that accent right before he introduces himself. It kind of just came to me in a rush, and I was just not prepared. And like how you're saying, we know as an audience where this is likely going, the likely culmination of this show, but still, this guy had this charm and some comfort with the role, and the fact that it was Scotty, and it just kind of hit in a way that I was not ready for, and I was just enamored the second he came on, and when I realized what was happening here. But before we go, Chris Fisher, who goes by Fishy Fish on this Zoom right now, before we go, Chris. Do you have any final thoughts on season 2 of Strange New Worlds, or even anything you'd like to throw out about season 3?
I can't say anything about season 3 because I'd probably get fired. I would love to. We were so close to shooting it. We were a week away from shooting episode 1, and we all got sent home. So we're all rooting here for our writers and actors to get a fair deal and get our show back on track. I'm a DGA and WGA member, and doing everything we can to get a fair deal here, so we can not only talk about season 3, but we can make season 3, and we can keep doing this with you guys, which we greatly appreciate. But my big takeaway on season 2 is just, we wanted to do bigger, we wanted to do better, we wanted to do bolder. And I think we did all those things, but I think we also realized that, there's no small character, that every one of our cast can carry an episode, that every one of our actors has an arc that could be their own show. There's such a rich universe thanks to Roddenberry and the creation of these characters, and thanks to Akiva and Henry and their interpretation of these characters. That I just, look, I think a lot of people know how much I love Anson. Anson and I were on a show together, a Marvel show called The Inhumans. It was a show that didn't do that well and wasn't going that well. And I was able to watch Anson as a leader on a show that wasn't going well, and how incredible he was. And I just said to myself, wow, probably this show isn't going to go anywhere, but I would kill to work with this guy again. I've never seen a leader like this. I've never seen an actor like this. I was this after that show ended, I was just so thirsty just to work with this guy again. So I knew what he had, and I knew what he had to bring. And there's no question that he is our captain. But I came away from the season 2 with Jess and Melissa, Celia, Ethan, Rebecca, Bruce, everybody is just, Paul, everyone is just so incredible. And I think we watched, episodes that didn't have a lot of Pike in them really get, carried by incredible actors. And I think we really kind of felt the sort of true ensemble nature of the show in a really, really great way. And, I think that's something that hopefully that will continue.
Yeah, looking back on this season 2, you guys took some really big, swings at trying new ways to do Trek. I feel the crossover episode was
huge,
pioneering. Yeah. It was amazing. Jonathan Frakes, I thought, just killed that. As far as I didn't know what to expect, and it was better than anything I could expect. It's a standout.
We hired Frakes season 1, and then with all the COVIDness and all the conflicting schedules, so from inception, we've seen Frakes as a invaluable partner on the show. But yeah, he just came and killed it, right? And
the actors too. Tawny. Quaid, they just killed the performance. I love the episode. You also took chance with the musical, and made it work. You also did. I love the Spock is human.
Oh, that was so good.
I just enjoyed that one. Spock being human. So this episode, this season, you guys took some big chances, but just staying consistently good, staying on course with the storylines and the overall arcing love stories and interpersonal relationships that you built on the show. Totally enjoying it. Can't wait to see season 3. I know it's going to be just more bigger and better. And you guys are honing into the chemistry. Also want to say, to add to your point about the actors, they're having the responsibility of having to fill some really big shoes that all of us grew up, watching. And what I enjoy about watching Ethan and Celia and just watching these performers is that I have now totally bought in and believed them as their characters. There's no more that, well, Spock says it like this, or Uhura looks more like this. I've suspended that because of the way they've, you guys have written the show and the way these actors have performed these characters. So that is a testament to just good writing, good performance, and everybody being on the same team, because it's not easy to fill these kinds of shoes that, people have already been, conditioned to have an identification with. So kudos to you guys and the team over there for really giving us a rebirth of these characters and the feeling and capturing the essence of who they are. It doesn't matter that, that Scotty is not saying it exactly like Scotty. I like that he's saying it, that he has his individual, his own way, his own touch, his own personality and his performance, but it's still spot on to the essence of who Scotty is. So, I just wanted to commend all of you guys for making that happen for us.
I'll say one thing before I leave that, which is interesting. So back when I was first interviewing for the job, and I was meeting with Henry and the one of our showrunners, and I asked him, so what do we want to do here? What are we going to do here? And I was expecting to kind of have like an hour-long conversation here, and Henry's answer was, we're just going to make Trek. We're just going to do Trek. We're going to do Trek. That's it. We're going to go back and do Trek. I've never got it so perfectly, succinctly. I knew exactly what he meant, So that's what we're trying to do. And I think the show's just started. This could be a 10-year show. Everyone that works on it is loves making it. The stories are just starting to come out. It's just, it's because of COVID, because of the strike, it's taken 4 years to make 20 episodes. So hopefully Paramount Plus is smart and says, hey, let's go make 20 a year. Let's start making this show. Like this is gold.
Yeah.
You gotta we all I've been very fortunate to be on 4 very successful genre shows in a row. I started on Warehouse 13 and then did Person of Interest and then the Magicians and now Strange New Worlds. But I from these other shows, I know you got to ride it while it's hot and you gotta jump into it. So yeah, again, hopefully we get back to work soon and hopefully Paramount keeps ordering the show and we can keep making it great.
Wow, that would be amazing. 20 episode season. I mean, they did it with Prodigy. Discovery did 16 episodes the first season, 14 after that, 13, 12, and 10. It's entirely possible. That would be just fantastic. Chris, this has been so cool. You have been phenomenal for the show, for our show personally, behind the scenes, and we really appreciate you. We owe you a debt of gratitude. We owe you and the whole Strange New Worlds team a debt of gratitude for, hey, just making Trek. No biggie. But it shows and everybody's noticing it is the best thing. Everybody's noticing that you're just making Trek and we're loving it. Really appreciate you. Before we go, there are a few other people that we really appreciate. And their names are, very special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan. Our good buddy Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie Blander, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Goo, congratulations on the wedding to another one, Dr. Stephanie Baker, also DQ, Neil Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, the aforementioned, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, my live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach-Heid, Julie Manosfi, Marcia Classic Schreier, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner and Jason the Outrageous Okun. That's it for us. That's it for season 2 of Strange New Worlds. Looking forward to 8 more seasons and 100 episodes or more. Special thanks to Mr. Chris Fisher. And for all of us at the 7th Rule, thank you all very much for joining us. We really appreciate you. And until next time, always remember the 7th Rule.